Before humans ever set foot on the moon, something strange was already happening in the photographs. Long before conspiracy theories, long before social media, long before the word alien became a shortcut for disbelief. Astronomers in the 1950s noticed that certain lunar regions behaved differently under observation. Shadows didn't match terrain. Light reflected at impossible angles. And then, without explanation, those areas stopped appearing in public releases altogether. But here's the part almost no one talks about. They didn't disappear. They were blurred. The moon is only about 238,855 miles away. In cosmic terms, it's right next door. We can map rocks on Mars with astonishing clarity. Yet our closest celestial neighbor still contains patches that seem intentionally softened, cropped, or digitally altered. Not accidentally. Not randomly, repeatedly, consistently, and always in places that raise uncomfortable questions. If this were just one image, one mission, one camera glitch, it would be easy to ignore. But it isn't. It's a pattern that spans decades. And patterns don't lie. When the Apollo missions returned with thousands of photographs, NASA released what it called the best representations of the lunar surface. The public was shown craters, dust, footprints, flags. But buried in archives often, mislabeled, downgraded in resolution, or quietly replaced were images that didn't fit the narrative of a dead, lifeless rock drifting silently through space. Some showed geometric shapes where erosion shouldn't create geometry. Others revealed straight lines stretching for miles, intersecting at near-perfect angles. Natural processes don't do that easily, especially not on a body without atmosphere, weather, or flowing water. At first, NASA dismissed questions as misunderstandings of light and shadow. But then came the edits. High-resolution originals were replaced with lower-quality versions. Contrast was adjusted. Sections were cropped out entirely. In some cases, metadata was altered, removing information about camera settings and locations. And the strangest part, independent astronomers who requested raw data were denied access. Even decades after the missions ended. Why protect outdated images unless there's something still worth hiding? One former NASA image analyst, speaking anonymously years later, described a process known internally as sanitization. According to him, images flagged during review weren't deleted. They were modified, just enough to remove identifiable detail. You wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it, he said. And if you were looking for it, you already knew too much. What exactly were they sanitizing? In several Apollo photographs, researchers noticed structures that appear to cast shadows inconsistent with the sun's position. Tall, vertical forms rising from the surface. In one famous image, a cluster of shapes appears along a crater, each casting shadows in slightly different directions, as if they weren't part of the terrain itself. NASA's explanation was simple. Low sun angle exaggeration. But when those same regions were photographed again years later by lunar orbiters, the detail was gone, not destroyed, just blurred beyond recognition. Then, there are the so-called glass domes. Astronauts themselves hinted at them carefully, cautiously, and always off-camera. One Apollo transcript includes a line that was later removed from the public version. In it, an astronaut describes a structure near the horizon that reflects like glass. The official transcript replaced the line with a vague reference to surface glare. Glare doesn't hold its shape. Glare doesn't repeat across images. Asterisk glare doesn't appear in the same location decades later. But the blur does. Modern lunar missions should have ended the mystery. With digital sensors capable of extreme resolution, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter should have shown everything. And it did. Just not to us. Asterisk public releases from the LROR. Stunning. You zoom in on specific coordinates that independent researchers have flagged. Then the detail suddenly collapses. Pixels smear. Edges soften. Resolution drops without explanation. Even though surrounding areas remain razor-sharp. Asterisk NASA claims this is due to data compression. Asterisk but compression doesn't selectively target anomalies. Asterisk one researcher overlaid multiple lunar images, taken years apart, and found that the blur zones were identical. Same shape, same size, same location, different missions, different cameras, same censorship. Asterisk that's not a technical limitation. That's a decision. Asterisk the question isn't whether NASA edits images. That's already admitted. The real question is why certain lunar features are treated differently from the rest of the moon. Asterisk some believe the answer lies in what astronauts actually saw. Asterisk Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and others were military pilots before they were explorers. Trained observers, calm under pressure, not prone to fantasy. And yet, multiple astronauts later hinted that the moon was not as empty as it appeared. Asterisk in a private conversation later referenced by a professor, Armstrong reportedly said that there were things on the moon that were not supposed to be there. He never elaborated publicly. None of them did. But silence, especially from people trained to report anomalies, speaks volumes. Asterisk Aldrin himself once responded cryptically when asked about extraterrestrial life. There are many secrets, he said, and not all of them are ours to share. Asterisk why would walking on a dead rock produce secrets? Asterisk then there's the phenomenon known as transient lunar phenomena, brief flashes, glows, and color changes observed on the moon for centuries. Even before modern technology, astronomers reported lights moving across the lunar surface. Today, these events are still logged, still unexplained, and still avoided in official discussions. Asterisk some TLP events appear near the same regions that are now blurred. Asterisk coincidence or connection. Asterisk critics argue that believing in artificial structures on the moon is a leap too far. But here's the problem with that argument. It assumes that artificial automatically means alien. It doesn't. Artificial simply means not naturally formed. Asterisk. And something doesn't have to be alive today to leave evidence behind. Asterisk what if the moon wasn't always lifeless? Asterisk what if it was once monitored, observed, used? Asterisk some theorists suggest the moon itself may be artificial, at least modified. Its size, orbit, and perfect solar eclipse alignment are statistically unusual. Not impossible, just precise. Almost engineered. Asterisk if that sounds extreme, consider this. If humanity discovered undeniable evidence of non-human structures on the moon, it wouldn't just rewrite science textbooks. It would collapse religious certainty, destabilize political power, and force humanity to confront the fact that we were never the first ones here. Asterisk. That kind of truth isn't released casually. It's managed. Blurred images don't scream aliens. They whisper doubt. They keep the conversation just vague enough to dismiss, just unclear enough to avoid confirmation. Perfect ambiguity. And ambiguity is control. The most unsettling part isn't that NASA might be hiding something. It's that whatever they're hiding hasn't gone away. If these structures exist, they're still there, waiting, silent, watching Earth the same way we watch the moon. Asterisk every night. When you look up and see that pale, familiar face in the sky, you're not just looking at a rock. You're looking at a place that humanity has. Touch, but never fully. Explained. Asterisk, and the blur tells us one thing. Clearly, asterisk, the moon knows more about us than we know about it. Asterisk, the real question is not why NASA blurs certain lunar images. Asterisk, the real question is what would happen if they stopped. Asterisk, and whether we're actually ready to see what's been staring back at us all along.